Thank you for joining us for today's Management Committee meeting on June 26th. We have a quorum, so we'll begin our meeting. We have the first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or edits that anyone would like to make to the agenda? If not, then without objection, the agenda is approved. We also have the approval of the June 12th draft Management Committee meeting minutes. Everybody's had a chance to look at those in advance. Are there any changes or edits to those? All right, seeing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the draft minutes from June 12th. Moved by Lee. Oh, moved by Osman, seconded by Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our non-consent business reports of standing committees, and we have before us two items. The first is 2024-165 appraisal services contracts 23P088, and we have Kelly Jamison, our Director of Real Estate, with us today. Thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Johnson and members of the committee. I am here to present a proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contracts 23P008A through I for appraisal services to support the acquisition, disposition, and valuation of real property for all divisions in an amount not to exceed $7.5 million. And then you'll see that the list of contracts are listed below. To note here on the 9 contracts, 2 are DBE firms, and for the first time, all firms have a 4% DBE goal. 7 of the firms are local, and then there's 2 national firms that have a local office. A little bit of background on this: the real estate office supports all divisions in the acquisition, disposition, and use of real estate. This includes both fee purchase and easement use. Statute and funding partners often require that transactions take place at market value. This contract assists in the determining of fair and equitable value for the real estate transactions. This contract replaces the last 5-year contract. 5 of the 6 vendors on this list are returning, and we have added 4 new contracts. One change in this master contract is that we invited residential appraisers to propose. And previously, large projects like Green and Gold Line had their own. In this contract, we're putting everything together, which just allows a more efficient distribution of appraisers because it was often the same vendors on multiple contracts. In the fall of 2023, a letter was mailed to all certified appraisers in the Twin Cities, 7-county metro area. There was 27 plan holders. We received 10 proposals and selected 9. Funding for this contract comes from council-wide capital and operating budgets, and work orders will be issued when the new budget arises. And so with that, the proposed action, again, is that Met Council authorize regional administrator to negotiate and execute contracts 23P008A through I for appraisal services. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions by council members? And because we're I have one, just because we're combining all of this into one contract and then we can allocate them to the different projects, is that the concept that you're telling us today?
Yes, Chair. So, and some of the smaller projects already ran through the real estate office, but this is also taking those bigger contracts, and we have F line, blue line, purple line that are all going to be kind of under construction around the same time. So we feel like this is an efficient way to allocate the appraisers as needed and will help the project offices.
Yeah, and then do we bill back then to the project, or is it in a separate fund that's already tied to the project?
Everything is billed back to a project, whether it is project for transit line, whether it's environmental services for interceptor work, everything is billed back to the project.
So there's a lot of efficiencies in this as well. And then you mentioned this is the first time for a 4% DBE goal. For all of the contractors that we're looking at for this contract.
Correct. Every contractor on this list, all 9 of them, have to commit to providing 4% of their contract to a DBE subcontractor, or if they are a DBE firm themselves, then they've met it at 100%.
And just one more, we haven't done that before.
No.
Okay, that's great. Any questions by anyone else? Councilmember Osman.
Some of them are DPF firm, right?
2 of the vendors, Lake State Realty and CM Valuation, are DBE.
And the contract's 100 for those two, right?
400 for CM valuation, 875,000 for Lake State. The reason that it's smaller, really has to do with their smaller firms. And they are, 1-2 person shop.
Thank you.
Okay, great question, thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, then, seeing none, I would entertain a motion that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contracts 23P0888 through 23P088 I for appraisal services to support the acquisition, disposition, and valuation of real property for all divisions in an amount not to exceed $7.5 million, as listed in the report by staff. Is there a motion?
Movable.
Moved by Osmond, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lee, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That passes unanimously, so thank you for bringing that forward. Really great news on some of those adjustments you're making, and also it'll be fun to see that come back through the DBE numbers that we'll get reports on throughout the year, so thank you very much. Thank you. And then we have our next item, 2024-166, it's an online benefit administration, and we have Michelle Murray, our senior HR manager, and I'll turn it over to you, Michelle. Thank you very much, and you have a presentation for us.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Michelle Murray, Senior Manager of Benefits. Just want to quickly introduce myself, just because it's my first presentation. I replaced Terry Hope, who retired last September, so I've been with the council since September. And so I'm here to present the Online Benefit Administration Contract 24P057. So just some background, our online benefit enrollment system provides central eligibility and enrollment processes for our employees to support open enrollment, new hires, qualifying life event changes throughout the year for all of our employees. This project solicitation is the first RFP for this service since 2013 when it was originally awarded, because it was previously offered as a sole source since that time. Just a little bit more background on all the different features that the service provides. It does do new hire and rehire benefit in elections, along with supporting all the open enrollment elections. And during that time has customer service availability for our participants to call in if they're unable to do something online. Has the ability for people to process qualifying life event changes during the year, and also has a platform for all of our benefit communications. So it explains the differences between all of our different benefits. It also secures benefit eligibility files to each one of our vendors. So as enrollments are made, then updates are made respectively to each one of our vendors in a secure method, and then allows us to do reporting. And then finally, it also allows us to do compliance with the Affordable Care Act reporting, which most of you are familiar with, the 1095C form that you receive annually. So through clarifications and best and final offers, the panel received a 5% price reduction along with a fixed 5-year cap pricing model from the current contract. And we also received several enhanced services, such as enhanced Affordable Care Act reporting services, which will ease the administrative burden on our staff. We are going to be utilizing the service for dependent verification processing, which currently is handled manually. A year-round call center instead of one just during open enrollment. And then an enhanced content manager, which is really the way that the communications are shared with our employees. So it's a streamlined service for communications. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P057 with BenefitFocus.com Inc. to provide online benefit administration, benefit enrollments, including open enrollment, dependent verification, and ACA form compliance in an amount not to exceed $1.258 million.
Great, are there any questions? Anybody have any questions? I have a quick question. So we've had our current contract in place since 2013, and that is expiring? Is that where we're at, or where are we at in that contract?
Yes, Madam Chair, the current contract is expiring at the end of this current calendar year.
Okay. And that was a sole source, and were we under contract for the entire time, or had we renewed during that span of about, 13, 14 years? I think more.
Yes, Madam Chair,
12
the
years.
contract has been extended multiple times during that period.
Okay.
Yep.
And with this, when we put it out for an RFP, did we have DBE goals around this at all?
There were no DDE goals assigned to this current contract.
Okay. And it seems to me that with all the explanation you have in your presentation and in the report, we're gonna gain a lot of efficiencies, there will be better benefits beyond the benefits, but there will be better experiences, let me say it that way, for our employees as they're trying to navigate and get information.
Correct.
And then just to understand too, is the call center part of the package, so it won't be our own employees, but they'll be knowledgeable employees as part of this package to assist year-round?
Madam Chair, yes, the call center can handle basic benefit questions, but mostly probably enrollment questions as far as navigation, or if they're unable to do it online because they don't have access to a phone or a computer, then they can utilize the call center year-round instead of just during that open enrollment period.
That's awesome. And then just hearing it again, just we had a 5% reduction. Can you just explain what that? I know what a reduction means. I'm just trying to understand what that means as far as savings to the council, or what did that entail?
Well, based on our current pricing, it'll be 5% less.
So it's based on our current contract, which is awesome. I wasn't sure if there was some negotiation from maybe what they were first offering. Okay, well that's good
Yeah, it was
news.
based on negotiations and best and final offers that we received the 5% reduction.
Okay, great. Any questions? All right, well, again, we have before us, and I'll just repeat that the Metropolitan Council authorized the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P057 with BenefitFocus.com Inc. to provide online benefit administration, benefit enrollments, including open enrollment, dependent verification, and ACA form compliance in an amount not to exceed $1.258 million. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Lee,
Second.
seconded by Osmond. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That passes unanimously. I think this is great work. This is the first time something like this is coming before us to just kind of understand how that all works. So good job to whoever, you and whoever else on the team was working on this. And I'm anxious to see, after we've gone a cycle with everyone, to see how it kind of turns out. But great work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we are now at the end of our regular agenda, and we have an information session that we'll be moving into closed session. So I'm going to turn to Councilmember Pacheco, who may have a motion for us.
Madam Chair, I move to close this meeting under section 13D03, subdivision 1 of the Minnesota statutes so we can consider a labor development and negotiation related to labor strategies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Osmond. Before we vote on that, I'd like to just say that the governing body of a public employer by majority vote in a public meeting may decide to hold a closed meeting under provisions of section 13D.03 subdivision 1B of the Minnesota statutes. The discussion at a meeting closed under this law must be confined to labor negotiations, strategies, developments, and/or discussions and review of labor proposals. The proceedings of a meeting closed under this law will be tape recorded, preserved for 2 years, and made available to the public as provided by law. With that, if there are no other questions on that, we will take a vote on that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And with that, that passes unanimously, and we will be closing the meeting. I just want to mention one thing for the public before we close the meeting to discuss labor strategies. I'd like to inform members of the public who are monitoring this meeting and for the record that the committee will adjourn immediately after the discussion of this information item, and the committee will not have any discussions or conduct any business after this information item is complete. So for the record, please note that this meeting was closed to the public at 2:45 p.m. on this day, June 26th. And again, this meeting is just for council members and management staff on this item. So we'll wait to make sure